Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone. I got a brand new video for you, ladies and gentlemen. But before I get started, like always, I appreciate you guys dropping a like. And if you're new to the channel, first time here, hey, welcome. I'm glad you stopped by. Stick around. Today is one of those days that I will optimize lineups on the Fantasy Cruncher for all three platforms, Fanduel, DK, and as well as Yahoo. So definitely stick around. If it's your first time here, man, hey, the only thing you have to do to get this information on a consistent and daily basis is to become a subscriber down below. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you put on your post notifications. This way you don't miss out on any of my lineup advice videos. With that being said, today's Thursday, January the 17th, 2019, and we have a 5-game slate in the association, so we're going to get right to it. Before I get started, last night, very good night. I gave you guys a lot of nice plays yesterday. All of them pretty much panned out. I didn't share with you guys late in the day as far as fading away from Aaron Gordon, which I personally did myself for like about 20 minutes before lock. I decided not to go with Aaron Gordon as one of my key power forward plays. I opted out to go with PJ Tucker, knowing that he was going to start and they were going to play small ball going up against Brooklyn. I felt that was a pretty good matchup. And at the same time, I decided to go with Mr. Jermichael Green. So it ended up panning out good for me because in the single entries, I was in it. If I would have gotten more help from Klay Thompson, who started off very good at the first half of the game, I was like, hey, you know what? If Klay puts up another 23, 24 fantasy points in the second half, I should do very well here. But he didn't do that for me. He only put up 31.7 total for the night. But my 5 key guys, I basically did well with. I gave you guys Irving. He put up 59. I told you guys to be on Doncic. He put up 47.6. Kawhi Leonard put up 51.8. I don't know what Aaron Gordon put up because, like I said, I completely took him out of all my lineups. Jared Allen put up 60.8, which ended up being a fine play, and he was pretty low. He wasn't as highly owned as I thought he would be. And I finished in 245th place in single entries for $1 and $2 events on FanDuel, which was pretty good. Made some money, you know, not a ton of money. I made some money. You know, you got to be in the top like 50 or 40 to really make some decent money in those single entries. But I like the single entries because I know that I don't have to do multiple lineups, and I know I'm competing with somebody else that more than likely has the same lineup as me or doesn't have it at all, and that I think is an advantage. I advise you, if you play GPPs, definitely try to do some single entries as well. But nonetheless, not too bad. Other guys that I had within there, I had Royce O'Neal. If O'Neal would have done well going to the later slate, I had O'Neal. It's always good to have a couple players in the later slate, especially the higher implied total games. So O'Neal and Klay Thompson were my key guys. My cheapest player was Bryn Forbes of San Antonio. He put up 22.5. He ended up being the draw spot. He was only 4,300, so he finished up being lower, slightly lower than Royce O'Neal. If O'Neal would have put up at least a 35-40, that would have been great. He was in a prime position to do that, but he missed a number of shots. He finished with 22.9. And Klay, like I said, first half he shot so well. Second half, it was the Steph Curry show, and that ended that for me. But 245, I finished with a 354 as my top score. Not a bad day. I did score some 340s and some 330s and made a little bit of money there too. Not a bad night for me. Hopefully you guys took some of those plays that I advised. So let's get right to it for today. Like always, I basically share what I think is probably one of my favorite plays up at the top as far as the studs are concerned. There's quite a bit of studs here tonight. You got Westbrook, you got Jokic, and B now all of a sudden game time decision. A little while ago when I was looking through the actual here the slate, actually about an hour or two ago, Joel Embiid didn't have this game time decision thing here. So now he's a game time decision play. So got to keep an eye on that for Joel Embiid. If Joel Embiid doesn't play, then obviously that's going to open up the doors for Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons to be in a more prime position to put up some serious numbers. So keep that in mind. And so Ben Simmons is like, we have no Kawhi Leonard, man. The news is no Kawhi Leonard. He's going to rest. He's on the front end of back-to-back. They figure they're going to rest him. But the big surprise is that Kyle Lowry is out tonight too. So you have no Lowry, no Leonard. Man, that really opens up the door. I really like now the opportunity for Phoenix to capitalize in this game and keep this game close, because when those two guys were going to play, it didn't look too good for Phoenix. But now it actually looks like it's going to be an interesting game. And if Devin Booker and TJ Warren and guys like DeAndre Ayton can have a very, very solid game, they can actually be a surprise here today against Toronto. Definitely opens up some value with Toronto as well, as we all know when those guys are out. So we'll share that with you as well. The Sacramento, Charlotte, and the LA Laker and OKC games are the two highest implied total games. I will have exposure, and I highly recommend on a 5-game slate like this, definitely, you know, have some exposure to those games. I mean, because as you can see from last night's game with New Orleans and the Lakers, If you're not in, you don't have 3 or 4 players out of these games, you're losing out big time on fantasy point totals. The game is so much different this year as opposed to the last couple of years that I've been playing. This year, it's just like, you don't know. It's so unpredictable. I guess at times you can predict, and by seeing 2 fast-paced teams play against each other, there's a good chance that the game is going to be high score. I mean, this game just blew and exceeded the implied totals for last night with that game being 147-140. That is a huge offensive game, very, very fast, a lot of shots. And, you got to have some exposure to these games. And these are the 2 that are going to be the ones you should target today. I will have exposure to those. And I do believe you can game stack these games as well, especially the Sacramento-Charlotte game. Anyway, let me get out, not off course, but I wanted to be able to share you guys a couple of tips. So definitely Phoenix and Toronto should be a lot more competitive game. I will have exposure to players on both sides of that game. But at the top as here, my favorite, I was going to go with Embiid today as my top guy here prior to the video, but now maybe leaning more towards Westbrook or Jokic. I'll probably have some exposure to either one of those 2, especially if Embiid is out. Let's go over the point guard. At point guard at the top, you do have Westbrook. You got Simmons. Now, again, there's going to be a usage. There's going to be a bump up on Mr. Simmons as far as him being more offensive-minded, as well as Jimmy Butler if Embiid is definitely out. So definitely keep that in mind. He will be in play. I'm going to be honest with you right now if that is the case. This game here, the intriguing game for me is the Sacramento-Charlotte game. Kemba versus Fox. They're both going to go at it. Kemba just finished coming off a 50-point game. Finally, Kemba Walker's starting to come around. He has gone 7 straight games where he was averaging less than 36 fantasy points per game, which is below his average. He finally got a good 50-point game. De'Aaron Fox, you know how I feel about him. So I'm going to have exposure to both guys, but I feel the more exposure for me personally is going to be Fox, because sometimes for me, Fox is a little more consistent to me as far as him getting all the additional fantasy point totals. His defense, he gets some steals, he gets some blocks on a more consistent basis than Kemba does. So I think he has a little bit more of I would say a balanced stat sheet as opposed to Kemba, at least over the last 5 or 6 games. So I do like Fox here. So I'm going to speak about Fox. We know how good Fox is. Like I said, Kemba Walker is in play, ladies and gentlemen. Kemba Walker is in play. 5-game slate. There's going to be a number of guys in play. I do like Fox here. 18 points, 3.5 rebounds, 7.5 assists, 37 fantasy points per game, 8,600. You need 43 to meet value on DK. He's 8,100. You need 40 there. He's averaging 37. And as you can see, he's been averaging pretty much 4 out of his last 5 games, 37 plus. Okay, we come over and we look at him a little bit closer here on the Fantasy Cruncher. And again, I mean, the minutes are there, man. We know we're going to get minutes from this guy, 31 plus minutes pretty much per game. His usage rate is about 24-25% on average. There are times that he's even higher than that. Like you can see here in the game against Charlotte 2 games ago, he was 29% usage rate with 30 minutes of play, 6 of 15, 1 of 4. He played fairly well, 21 points from the floor. So, I mean, again, you know, the minutes are there. He's going to get 14, 15 shots pretty much per game. He's going to take 3 or 4 threes. He's going to get to the foul line, which is pretty good for a point guard. Last 2 games, he's gotten to the foul line 19 times and he's put up 17 free throws. And then, of course, he can get you some rebounds and assists, and he brings some steals, man. He definitely, I won't say he's a great defender because of the fast pace. He doesn't defend fairly well, but when he gets an opportunity to get some steals, he is quick enough and he's good with his hands to be able to do that. 5 steals in the last 2 games. He's also had 3 blocks over the last 4 games. You know, he's the real deal, man. He definitely is a good player. He's going up against Charlotte. He put up a 45 spot, 32 and 26 last year, 45 spot in the first game. His home and away splits have been pretty good. He's better on the road. Better on the road. Some of the guys I'm going to speak upon today as possible big plays for us, they're all pretty darn good on the road as well, and he is one of them. He's shooting 51% after 20 games on the road this year, 51% from the floor, 40% from 3, averaging 19 points per game and 38 fantasy points per game on the road. He had that 1 game against Charlotte, as you can see here. He put up a 45 in that game and in 21 points. Charlotte is coming in here. They're 23rd, as you can see here, in defending point guards, and they've been allowing 32.6 fantasy points per game as of late, and 1.16 fantasy points per minute. And we got a young man here that is a good 1.1 fantasy point per minute player. The last couple opponents they have faced, Mr. Fox, 45. Damian Lillard put up 51. Mr. Alexander from the Clippers put up 34. Those are the last 3 guys over the last couple of games. I do like him here. So De'Aaron Fox, we're going to pencil him in. Again, you could very easily take Fox out of here and go with Kemba Walker and pay $600 more. I will not be at all opposed to that. I would not be angry with you if you wanted to pay all the way up to pay for Ben Simmons. If Joel Embiid is definitely out, I would definitely go that route as well. There's no harm in going that route. We come down a little lower as far as those two guys, those three people that I mentioned. Obviously, you got to consider Mr. Melton here against Toronto. He's going to go up against Van Fleet. You got Van Fleet going up against Melton. So you definitely can go either or with these guys. 5,000 here, you need 25. 5,500 here, you need about 26, 27 from Mr. Melton. So I would not be at all opposed to any one of these two guys. Obviously, you probably will favor Van Fleet at home. Should definitely get at least 25 to 30 minutes, maybe even more, while Mr. Lowry's out. So I would go that route. Other than that, I mean, as of late, Ryan Arcidiacono has been getting a little bit of minutes again. He may be someone to consider. Mr. McConnell has been pretty consistent, so he may be someone to consider. Indiana is always tough against opposing point guards and shooting guards, so I'm always a little weary, but you could go that route. As shooting guard at the top, I'm taking advantage of the situation with no Lowry, no Leonard. You got to consider Devin Booker. I mean, I do like Devin Booker. I will have exposure to Victor Oladipo. And again, now knowing, this is how I was feeling earlier today, now knowing that maybe there's a possibility for no Embiid, we have to have some consideration for Jimmy Butler at 8,100. We know he's capable of getting us 40 or better. He's he has 50-point upside. So he's in play. Oladipo's in play. Oladipo is due to have a big game. He is only 8,000. You need 40 from him. He has had 5 or 6 straight games where he's been below his average of 37, pretty much his average of 38. So he is due for a game, and this may be the one. This may be the game right here. So Oladipo in play. I do love Devin Booker and taking advantage of no Lowry and Leonard. If he's going to play his regular minutes, I know he had the back spasms. He came back at 26. Granted, this was a poor shooting night for him. Okay, if we look at him, we'll go right to the cruncher. He shot poorly in that game. He got into foul trouble early. He had all kind of issues. The team didn't play well in general, but the team revolves around him as far as offensively. If he comes off good, everything else flows, perfectly. 4 of 12, 0 of 4, 5 fouls early on. He only got 27 minutes. The game ended up being a 34-point blowout against Indy. That game is done and over with. We move on. This guy, it has talent. This guy is the main offensive weapon for the Phoenix Suns. With those two other guys off the floor for Toronto, I can see Devin Booker's usage rate, his minutes, his shots. He's going to take more than 20 shots today. He's going to make things happen. And this is an opportunity now for Phoenix to be able to stay in this game with those two guys out. So I want to take advantage of the matchup. I want to take advantage of the price tag too, $7,700. This is a 9K player or better. He's 1.1 fantasy point per minute average or better player, as well as far as a scorer. You got to take advantage of Devin Booker here. Okay, so Booker 7,700. You need 37 to meet value on DK 7,800. I am not at all opposed to not taking him. You can play him if you can in your lineups on DK at 7,800. You only need 38. In both platforms, he is out under his average. So his price tag is definitely very, very good. He's 50, 60-point upside. As you see here, the numbers don't look pretty as of late, but as you can see, he definitely can get you 50 and 60. He's averaging more than 30 minutes a game. He's going to average more than 30% usage rate. We know that. And, of course, he's going to take more than enough shots. As of late, it hasn't looked pretty, but tonight he has an opportunity, and I'm sure he's going to get fired up for it. 19 to 20 shots or better for sure, and he's going to get some threes out. He takes about 2 or 3 a game on average. Can get to the free throw line at times, and he's definitely very good from the free throw line. Get some rebounds, gets you some assists. Surprisingly, his steals and blocks have not been good as of late, and he's got to stay out of foul trouble. You notice here he's at 4, 4, 4, and then 5. Got to stay away from that. If he can stay away from that, he's definitely going to help his team. He's going to help us as fantasy players as well. So Devin Booker, to me, is in play. His home and away split, 16 games away from Phoenix. 45% field goal percentage, 29% from 3. Not shooting particularly well from there, but is averaging 25 points per game and 41 fantasy points per game. So I expect him to do well here. He did not play well his first time around against Toronto. One game this Toronto shot poorly. He was shot 8 of 20 in that game. 8 of 20. All right. And he 2 of 7 from the 3-point line, only 29% and 40% from the floor. 18 points, 35 fantasy points. If he would have buried at least 50% of those shots and a few more threes and get that up to about 35-40%, he would have put up easily almost a 60 spot. So just from his usage, the amount of shots he takes, if he converts and he is a little bit more efficient with his shot, he's going to put up 50 to 55 with no problem. So Devin Booker in play for me versus Toronto. 22nd in defending shooting guards, allowing 33.6 fantasy points per game and almost 1 fantasy point per minute to opposing shooting guards at 0.94. The last few opponents, Smart put up 24. Mr. Beal put up 88 on this team, 34 by Jeremy Lin the game before that. And the game before that, Mr. Malcolm Brogdon put up 35. All right. And like I said, other than him, you got to consider Victor Oladipo. Okay. Oladipo, Philadelphia is 25th here, as you can see. And you got the thumbs up there. 25th in defending shooting guards, allowing 32.7 fantasy points per game. He has played Philly twice this year and put up a 37 and a 67. So granted, he has played poorly as of late. Pretty much like 5-6 straight games, looking horrific. But he has played well and has played massive minutes against his team in the past and taken massive shots. I expect no different today. I think Oladipo, if he can bury some shots early, he could be a surprise play here. So Victor Oladipo will be someone that you can consider. He is 8,000. You need 40. On DK, 7,600. You need about 37 there. Another guy I'm looking at is Dennis Schroeder. As you can see here, all the guys with the thumbs up are the ones that I am favoring today at the shooting guard position. So you got Dennis Schroeder. I definitely like him here, 6,100 here. You need about 30. He's going up against the Lakers. The Lakers are 11th in defending shooting guards, allowing 29.3 fantasy points per game as of late. Recently gave up 41 to Alec Burks and 31 to Royce O'Neal. So I do like the opportunity that Dennis Schroeder may have here. And he has played well. Dennis Schroeder has been playing well as of late. Other than that, as you can see, I got Danny Green here, KCP, as well as Josh Hart. These guys have done at least decent against OKC the last time they played against them. So that's the only reason why I have checked them off. Malik Beasley has played well for the Denver Nuggets. If there is no Gary Harris, you know he's going to get some time on the floor. So he could be someone you could have there at 4,700. And then Dylan Wright, you got to definitely consider Dylan Wright. Every time Mr. Lowry is out, he usually gets a bump in minutes and usage as well. So he is someone to consider, okay? So Mr. Devin Booker is in there. We go to small forward. And at small forward, you got to hit the top. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard rests. Got Paul George at the top. I will have exposure to Paul George. Hands down, we know that. This is going to be a paced-up game. It's the second highest implied total game of the day, other than Sacramento and Chicago. And like I said at the beginning of the video, you should have exposure to these two games. Paul George should be someone you got to definitely consider. He's got 60-point upside, 70-point upside. He's 10,004. You need 52 to meet value. He's averaging about 48. And, I just feel there's not much I could say about it. I will have at least 20-25% exposure to Paul George. But the guy that you should definitely try to target is one of the Phoenix guys because of the fact that we have no Kawhi Leonard and no Kyle Lowry. And I think Phoenix is going to be able to stay in this game if these guys here, like Warren and Oubre, play well. So TJ Warren is one that I am considering at 5,900. Again, numbers don't look good. He's on a 4-game kind of like 30-point or less streak. He's not shooting particularly well, and he's not actually scoring a whole lot of fantasy points. But he has 50-point upside at 5,900 in a game now that becomes a little more favorable for him without no Kawhi Leonard and no Kyle Lowry. So TJ Warren should be able to get a little bit more usage, will be a little bit more aggressive offensively, should take a lot more shots, and should be able to be on the floor at least 30 minutes or better, which he's averaging that. We're going to go over and take a look at him at the cruncher. And Mr. Warren, as you can see, not too pretty, 25 pretty much through 29 over the last 4 games, but does have 45, 50-point upside. The minutes are there. He's going to play 31 to as much as 39 minutes a game, as you can see here. But then, of course, the shots a little poor as of late, 7 of 15, 4 of 12. Look at this game, 7 of 20. When you shoot that poorly, you're not going to have great fantasy point totals. We know that he definitely, for him to do well, he's got to score on his shots. So if he's taking the shots are going down at least 45-50%, we have a better chance. He takes some threes. His usage rate is pretty good, over 22-23%. He's able to get some threes out, about 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5 on average per game. So if he buries at least 40% there, he'll be fine. And he'll get a little bit of rebounds. He's not a big assist guy. And the bottom line is he's capable of getting you some steals and the occasional block. And, of course, he can get you double-digit scoring. He can score 20 points in a given night. So Mr. Warren in play. Last time he played Toronto, only 13.8. Again, I'm looking at it as like, hey, you know what? He's going to have an opportunity here to play well. If Phoenix is want to win a game, they're going to need TJ Warren to score and play well here today. So I'm going with those factors. Toronto is 4th in defending small forwards, allowing 31 fantasy points per game and just under 0.88 fantasy points per minute to opposing shooting guards. They had recently given up 33 in the last game to Mr. Tatum, 50 to Trevor Ariza prior to that, and then the game before that, Mr. Bumbree 34 and Bogdanovich 42. So if those guys there, Ariza, Bumbree, and Bogdanovich could put up 34 plus, I think TJ Warren, if he shoots fairly well tonight, he should be able to get 40 to 45. At that price tag, he should be able to smash value. So again, I like Mr. TJ Warren. So we're going to add him there. Again, I will have exposure at least 20-25% to the top tier guy in Mr. Paul George. Oubre is definitely someone you can consider. A guy that's pretty steady all the time. Bogdanovich, he's pretty steady. He's pretty good for 27-30 fantasy points all the time. So he is someone you can have there, especially you cash play players. He's a pretty safe bet, you know, at 5,500, needing 26-27. I think he can get you 26-27 easy. Willie Barton, I'm waiting for his minutes to get up to about 29-30. And then I will be playing a little bit more Willie Barton. Right now it's a little tough. He's not quite there. I think he's at 20 minutes, 22 minutes, 23 minutes. He did put up more than 1 fantasy point per minute in 2 out of the 3 outings that he has been out. But we'll wait a little longer there. It would be a nice little matchup for him if he was to get that. If we know for a fact he's going to get more than 30, that would be good. Jabari Parker is in play. He's in play, obviously, with Willie, with Mr. Wendell Carter Jr. having that thumb injury, and he's out. Jabari is now benefiting. He's getting some run now. So he is definitely in play. Parker at 4,900 has got 45-point upside. Jabari Parker is definitely in play. All right, so don't fall asleep on Mr. Parker. Keep him in mind. And other than that, I mean, like I said, it's just Bogdanovich for me, Barton, and Parker that I like the best here. Let's go to power forward. And at power forward, we got Kyle Kuzma at the top. We got Mr. Sabonis. Sabonis is going to come off the bench now because obviously Mr. Turner's back. So I'm not going to be high on Sabonis. At 7,200, you need 36. That's a bit much. The guy I really do like here is Pascal Siakam in this game against Phoenix. I do think he has an advantage here. We know for a fact he's going to need to be offensive here without 2 offensive weapons off the court in Mr. Leonard and Mr. Lowry. So Pascal Siakam has been having a wonderful year for Toronto, a breakout year if you ask me. I think he is going to be the one that we should target here. 6,700. We're going to click on him here. 6,700 for him. He's averaging 15 points, nearly 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 31 fantasy points per game, pretty much more or less. At 6,700, you need 33 on DK. He is 7K. I'm okay with the 7K because he could get you 35, but you know, obviously he's the better play on Fanduel. So 6,700, not bad. 4 out of his last 6 games, he's been averaging at least 35 minutes or better. He's had 3 double-doubles during the course of that time, as you can see here, 24 and 19, 13 and 10, and 12 and 10. So he brings, you know, it's a little choppy. We're going to come over to the cruncher, but he's been a little choppy, of course, with his scoring and all that as of late. But he did put up almost a 60 against Washington the other day in a massive 44-minute game. But as you can see, usage rate is pretty good. He's about 20% usage rate as of late. The minutes are good as well, over 30 minutes a game on average. And what I like is that since earlier in the year, now all of a sudden he is taking a bit more shots. 13, 13, and 16 here in 3 out of the last 4 games. So I do like that as well. And he's capable of getting to the free throw line. He's a good shooter there. And he brings, obviously, the rebounding skills. And he's going to need that here today for sure. Okay, and then you got here, so he could give you some assists. Does turn over the ball a little bit, and I'm concerned with the foul trouble. The last 2 games, the last 3 out of the 4 games, he's been getting into foul trouble when he was pretty much staying at 3 or 4. All of a sudden now it's 4 or 6. He fouled out here in a 59, you know, almost a 60-point effort. We don't want that from Pascal. Definitely need him to stay on the court here today. He's capable of getting you blocks. Those are some of the areas that he brings, some of the added benefits and the bonuses that we get as a fantasy point player when we choose players like Pascal Siakam. So we definitely need him to stay on the court. Last time he played Phoenix, he only put up a 20 spot. That was back in November the 2nd. Again, only 27 minutes there. Didn't take a whole lot of shot. Look at the usage. That means he was not an integral part of the offense. Now he is. That's how the difference 30, 60 days can make on a player when he starts finding himself in the offense. So Siakam is in place. Phoenix 26 in defending power forwards, allowing 32.2 fantasy points per game. They have given up 1.02 fantasy points per minute as of late to opposing power forwards. They did recently give up 31 to Mr. Thaddeus Young, 33 to Millsap, 33 to Mr. Kleber, and 33 to Marvin Williams. So all those guys are right in the same vicinity as Siakam. I actually think Siakam is just as good or better than some of those guys, and I think he'll be able to do well here. Also, his home and away split's not too bad. I didn't mention his home. At home, he's shooting 59% from the floor, 47% from three. So Siakam has been getting it done in Toronto. 15 points per game, 31 fantasy points. And like I said, he did play against Phoenix, and we saw that already. He didn't play particularly that long in that game. But again, I think he is definitely a solid play here today. So Siakam is one of my favorites. You can go with Mr. Lauri Markkanen. When it comes to these two guys here, as far as usage, minutes, the amount of shots they take, it's worth their price tag, you know. Markkanen is a guy who's probably an 8K player, so he's getting him at a discount. I think it's definitely a tough matchup against Denver with Millsap. You can go either or. If I'm going to go either or, I will probably go more Millsap because he's at home. You got to take advantage that he's at home. So Millsap could be someone that you can consider here if you're not on Markkanen or on Siakam. But I do like Siakam. You come down, you can go to Ibaka if you wanted to. Don't like quite the matchup there against Ayton because I do like Ayton there against Ibaka. Thaddeus Young I do like here against Philly, against Wilson Chandler. He did put up a nice game against them. The last time he played Philly, he put up a 48 spot, and he did that on Wilson Chandler, but Wilson Chandler had just came back from injury, was just finding himself back into the team. So definitely a tough spot, but I think Thaddeus Young could definitely do well. Jeremy Grant is always someone that I've thrown in there and I've mentioned before as someone you always got to consider, and his price tag is coming up, but the guy continues the ball, and the most important thing and the big thing about it is that he is still getting tons of minutes and he's getting some good usage. His usage rate has gone up as well, so he is someone to consider. He's had 2 out of his last 3 games. He's put up 42 or better, so he's on fire right now. So if you want to play the hot hand, you can go that route here against the Lakers with Kyle Kuzma. I think Jeremy Grant could be someone you can consider. The Lakers are 25th in defending power forwards and 28.4 fantasy points per game as of late. Bagley is always someone I like too, but as of yet, he's not quite over the 30-minute mark, and he's not quite getting over 30 fantasy points. So at 6,100 needing 30, I'd rather pass on him, even though this is a good spot for him in a paced-up game. But he's going to have to deal with Marvin Williams. Marvin Williams is not a bad defender, at least in my opinion. And Marvin Williams here had a good game against Sacramento. I prefer Marvin Williams and pay down $600 at 5,500. Marvin Williams would be a nice play. Sacramento 15th in defending power forwards and 35 fantasy points per game in the last 5 games given up to power forwards. He put up 34 versus Sacramento just a couple of days ago on like the 12th or 13th of January. So Marvin Williams in play as well. Bobby Portis, the injury to Wendell Carter Jr., we don't know how many minutes he's going to get. I'm still waiting for him to get 25, 30 minutes. It's not quite happened yet. So, again, player beware, I guess, with Bobby Portis, but I guess he's someone you can consider. Holmes is definitely someone as well in Jackson. Those are probably the only ones that I would probably be on at all in this lower range. I don't see really any true big value in the lower range here at power forward. And we go to center. And at center, you got Jokic, Embiid. I was going to be all over Embiid because I felt the game is the most competitive out of the two, and I felt this game here could possibly slip into a blowout with Jokic having a hot hand as of late. They could feed him all day long over there. You could go that route. I would not be at all opposed for you guys if you really feel that the game is going to stay fairly close. We really can't go in here thinking, hey, it's going to be a blowout. But I always have that in the back of my head, and I try to look for better opportunities. And I think this would have been a better play with Embiid, knowing that Indiana and Philadelphia game is going to be a little closer. It's going to be more competitive. This one, hey, who knows? They did play a close game. Chicago did stay with Denver the last time they played. So you can go that route. But there's some opportunity here. Adams, Stein, and Ayton are all good plays here because of the matchup, who they're facing. OKC versus the Lakers. I mean, who's going to stop this brute, monster in Steve Adams? So Steven Adams is in a good spot here. He should be able to do 35-40 here, maybe even more. Willie Cauley-Stein, I really love a lot here. Paced up game, going against Charlotte. He did play well against them the last time. Okay, he did play well. Let me look at his numbers. Willie Cauley-Stein, 4 out of the last 5 games, he's had 40+, so he's playing very well. 4 double-doubles out of his last 6 games. Versus Charlotte, he shot a 40 spot, with them just recently. Put up 12 points, had 12 rebounds, 1 block, 2 steals, shot 54% from the floor. So Willie Cauley-Stein. So again, I'm still a little torn here, but I like Stein and I do like Ayton. Either one of these two, ladies and gentlemen, I think that you should definitely be on. You could pick your choice. Ayton here against Toronto, going up against Ibaka. I think he's going to do fine as well. I mean, we're looking at a kid here, 3 out of his last 5 games, 36 plus. He's at 7,200. You need 36 on DK, 6,600. You only need 33, and he's averaging 36. So he's below his price tag. It's below his average. His price tag is just about right, and that's perfect. That's what you want to look for when you're trying to find a good a deal on a player for the night. Willie Cauley-Stein, 7,600, same situation. You need 36 there. He's 6,500 on DK. You only need 32, and the guy's averaging 32.5, almost 33 fantasy points. So these two guys are definitely in play. They already have played against the opposition, and they've done well. Ayton, like I said, he has 60-point upside, and you got a guy who's only 7,200. I mean, yeah, I'll take that any day, especially that he's got to go up against Ibaka. And like I said, his home and away splits have been really solid. At home as well as away, he is pretty much balanced across the board. 59% field goal percentage on the road and 82% free throw with 11 average rebounds per game, 1 block, 1 steal, 16 points per game, and 36 fantasy points per game for Mr. DeAndre Ayton. And then Willie Cauley-Stein pretty much in the same range as well. On the road, 20 games this year, 54% field goal percentage, averaging 7 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal, 11.5 points per game, 28 fantasy points per game. So if you're going on strictly numbers, Ayton has played better. So you can just probably say, hey, you know what, let's go in there. But you got to consider Willie Cauley-Stein here more so than because this game has a higher implied total. So you can just say, I'm not going to go Ayton, Manny. I'm going to go with the high implied total game. I think Stein with that up-tempo pace, the transition game, these guys excel in that, Sacramento. They definitely do. And this game is going to have more shots, more opportunities because of the paced-up game. So you got to consider Stein as the better play, even though Ayton is in a good spot as well. So either or would be fine. I'm going to have exposure to both, probably about a good 50% across the board for both of those guys, and maybe a little sprinkle in the quarter GPPs of Mr. Jokic, or if Mr. Embiid if Embiid is able to play, I will have more Embiid. And that's where I'm at. All right, so now that we have some of the plays in play, you can mix match whatever ones I mentioned. They're all here as well on the screen as far as the guys that I like the best. So we're going to go to point guard. As you can see, I checked off Westbrook, Fox, Walker, Melton, and Mr. Van Fleet. At shooting guard, Booker, Oladipo, Caldwell Pope, Danny Green, Schroeder, Beasley, Hart, and Dylan Wright. Small forward, I like George, Bogdanovich, Warren, Barton, and Jabari Parker. Power forward, Siakam, main guy, Jeremy Grant, Thaddeus Young, Marvin Williams, and Rashard Holmes is the low price play. Then we got Embiid if he happens to play. If not, then you will replace that with Jokic. If you wanted to pay that high, I think you don't necessarily have to go that high at center today. Ayton and Willie Cauley-Stein are great plays, and you always have the potential to go with Steven Adams, which I'll put a thumbs up on him as well. If you wanted to pay down at center, you could go Biyombo, Chandler, or McGee. Chandler will probably get a little bit more minutes than McGee. You can go that route if you want to. So we're going to do a FanDuel crunch right now. We're going to make real quickly just 30 lineups because I'm not going to be able to share all 30 with you anyway. And then we'll do one line with the same amount of players that we chose. We're going to do a DK one, and I'll do one for you guys that play Yahoo. And again, I advise you guys, man, this is just, you like a lineup that you see here, play at your own risk. Good luck to you. I am not high on always because these projections are not my projections. They're Fantasy Crunchers projections. I have not ever put my own projections in it. I just love the software because I like that I can actually remove players and fill some other players in. A lot of the optimizing softwares can do that. I love the color. I love the whole layout here. So that's the reason why I use the Fantasy Cruncher. I just got comfortable with it. But as you can see, 29, all right, 30 lineups already done. And at the top, it has Mr. Bogdanovich, 77% of the 30 lineups he is in. That's 23 lineups. Devontae Graham, 67%. KCP 52%, Steven Adams 53%, and Pascal Siakam 50%, and it goes on and on. We're going to go point guard. We got Fox, top dog, 97%. He's the one that I chose. You got Graham, and then you got Walker at 17%, Mr. Harrison, Mr. Joseph, and Mr. Shamet. And then at shooting guard, Booker, another guy that I gave you guys 100%, KCP 53%, Oladipo 17%, then Malik Monk, Danny Green, Then a small forward, Paul George. I did recommend that I'll be high on George, 100%. Bogdanovich, 70%. Willie Barton, 20%. TJ Warren, which is the one I gave you on the screen, 3%. Power forward, Siakam, there you go, 50%. Grant, 33%. Marvin Bagley, 27%. Millsap, 20%. Thaddeus Young, 20%. And down the list is about 7 of them. And at center, Steven Adams, 53%. Then comes Tyson Chandler at 30%. Okay, so they're expecting him to put up some pretty good numbers. So you could consider him as a value play. And the Andre Ayton, which I did recommend, as well as Willie Cauley-Stein. All right, so let's just slide through here, show you a couple of these. At the top, we have Kimball Walker, Fox, Booker, Caldwell Pope, George, Bogdanovich, Siakam, Giles, and Chandler. On the second one, we have Fox, Joseph, Booker, Caldwell Pope, George, Bogdanovich, Siakam, Holmes, and Adams. And then we have Fox, Graham, Booker, Caldwell Pope, George, Bogdanovich, Young, Grant, and DeAndre Ayton. I'll show you about maybe 2 or 3 more rows here on FanDuel. You got this row here. You can always pause it after you watch the video, come back to it, and stop it there if you can see it. Hopefully, you should be able to see it good on your screen. You'll be able to make some decisions there. There goes another row of lines. And again, mix and match some of these lines. You could take, that's the beauty of it. That's one of the reasons why I share with you guys, with the viewers. I don't suggest you take the exact line, but you can actually see 6 or 7 that you really like. It makes things a little bit easier for you. Then you can just scratch off 1 or 2 and be like, hey, you know, I like these other 2 or 3. Then you look to see how it could work in your budget, and you'll be able to make some changes. There goes another row there. This is this is lineup 10, 11, and 12. And then I'm going to give you 13, 14, and 15, and that will be here for a long time. And nobody likes to watch my videos for a long time. You know, average viewing time is about 14, 15 minutes now. All right, so that's it right there. You get the idea, because most of the projected high scorers or for the night are in most of these lineups. So you'll be at least get an idea from there. And let's go to the top now, and I'm going to do one for you guys on DraftKings. Just give me a moment. It's loading up. Okay, here goes DraftKings. We're going to put here 30 lineups. All right. And, of course, we're using Fantasy Cruncher's projections, not my projections. And we'll see what we get out of this. And now you'll be able to at least figure out, if you play on both platforms, you'll get an idea, or all 3 platforms, you'll get an idea of what, because obviously it's a totally different game with the added bonuses here on DraftKings than there is on FanDuel. So you're going to see some different change. You're going to see some players are going to be on here, but some of them are going to be surprise ones as well. 28, almost at 30 lineups. All right, that goes to 30 lineups for DK. At the top, we got Devin Booker, 100%, which is one of my selections today. Marvin Bagley, 97%, which I'm not high on Marvin Bagley as of yet. Norman Powell, 93%. Paul George, 90%. Bogdanovich, 70%. This is Bogdan. And then we got Fred VanVleet at 67%. Paul Millsap, Jimmy Butler, and so on and so forth is all right here on the left-hand side. I'm going to just go by position. Booker, top dog at 100%. VanVleet, 67%. Then comes Ingram, 40%. Ball, 17%. Malik Monk, 7%. Then you got Booker, Powell, Bogdanovich, VanVleet at 67. Butler, 57. Ingram, 40. Bogdanovich, 17%. Willie Barton, and so on. Small forward, Powell, 93%. Paul George, 90%. Bogdanovich, 70%. Jimmy Butler, 57%. Bogdanovich, 17%. Willie Barton at 10%, and so on and so forth. Power forward, Bagley, 97%. Paul George, 90%. Paul Millsap, 60%. Jeremy Grant, 20%. Bobby Portis, 13%. And Ibaka, 3%. And at center, Bagley seems to be out quite a bit here on the DK. 97% Bagley, 60% Millsap, 13% Portis. Embiid, 10%. Chandler, 7%. Adams, 7%. Ibaka, 3%, and 8 and 3. Okay, and that's where we at. So I'm going to share the first 15 lines with you. First one here is VanVleet, Bogdanovich, Bogdan, Norman Powell, Marvin Bagley, Joel Embiid if he plays, Devin Booker, Paul Millsap, Brandon Ingram. Then you got VanVleet, Bogdanovich, George, Bagley, Butler, Powell, Booker. Then we have VanVleet, Bogdanovich, Powell, Bagley, Millsap, Booker, George, and Ingram. Line 2, I'll read this one out and then I'll just pause the rest. VanVleet, Butler, Powell, Bagley, Millsap, Booker, Barton, and George. And we have these guys here. That's the top 6 lines. Line number 7, 8, and 9 are right there. Go always pause the video, take a look. Again, you're going to be a lot of guys that are going to pop up in most of the actual lineups. Just mix match. Just remove who you don't want to see there and put who you would like to see as far as your budget is concerned. It goes 10, 11, and 12. And here is 13, 14, and 15. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go up to the top once again. And now I'll do one for Yahoo for you guys, and then we'll get you guys out of here. Yahoo. I have yet to play in Yahoo, so I'll probably play at some point. I mean, I'm just too busy, man. Too busy to, I take more than enough time just to figure out what I'm going to do on Fanduel and on DK when I play on DK. All right. So we're getting through here. 30 lineups on Yahoo, and then we're going to get you guys out of here. Hopefully this helps. I know it does help some of you guys because you guys definitely comment and let me know. Which I do appreciate all of you guys being viewers and helping out. I mean, obviously, if I don't get the viewers, it's not worth me doing this. So I do it to help those that really need some help, because there's a lot of guys. I was there once before, 4 years ago, not quite knowing how to do DFS, but playing fantasy sports for 20 somewhat years. All right, so at Yahoo, we have the top guy is Otter Porter at 97% with Thomas Bryant, 97%, Bagley, 90%, Paul George, 87%. Bradley Beal. Now, granted, you see, I have to change this here. We're going to have to do this again for Yahoo because it's coming out with these guys, with the Washington guys and New York guys, and we're looking for the main slate. So, sorry, that's the beauty again here. If you saw what I just did, you can change the slate. So we're going to have to do that one again, folks, because it came out with the New York lines on the Yahoo with the New York-Washington game, which is at 3 o'clock. We're dealing with just the main slate. Okay, so let's see. Let's try it again. And we're going to go with Fantasy Crunchers projections, and let's see how it pans out now. Okay, a lot better. As soon as I saw Beal up there, I was like, wait a minute, that's the Washington game. All right, so we got the five-game slate for Yahoo now. And it looks like at the top is going to be Paul George here with Bagley again, right underneath him. And there goes the 30 lines. We got Paul George with 100% of the lineups, Bagley 100%, De'Aaron Fox at 87%, Millsap at 77%, and Walker at 77%. So we got actually Walker, Fox, and George, which is 3 of the guys I did mention in my video. We're going to go by position real quick. Fox, number 1, 87%. Walker, 77%. I'm in favor of either one of the two, which I already told you guys. And you can even stack them up, man. You should definitely do some game stacking there in that game if you are playing multiple lineups. Van Fleet, 20%. Westbrook, 17%. Then Dylan Wright at 3%. Shooting guard Powell, 60%. You got Barton, 47%. Green, 37%. Booker, 17%. Bogdanovich at 10%. Villadeppo comes after that, 3%. And Jeremy Lamb. Small forward, Georgia, 100%. KCP, 17%. Bojan Bogdanovich, 3%. And Jimmy Butler, 3%. Power forward, Bagley, 100%. Millsap, 77%. Thaddeus Young, 10%. Jeremy Grant, 7%. And at center, Ibaka, 63%. Steven Adams, 33%. Chandler at 3%. And Biyombo at 3%. Again, very, very different, on Yahoo as far as some of the lines. So the top line here, we got Fox, Powell, Walker, George, Bagley, Millsap, Adams, and Barton. And then we got Fox, Barton, Walker, George, Bagley, Millsap, Ibaka, Van Fleet. Then Fox, Green, Walker, George, Bagley, Millsap, Adams, and Barton. And I'll pause 15 lines here as well. You got the second row of lines. So that's 4, 5, and 6. 7, 8, and 9. 10, 11, and 12. 13, 14, and 15. And that's all I'm going to give is 15 out of each, because the knot will be here forever. And that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we stand. Again, remember some of the guys I mentioned. You can mix match. You don't have to necessarily play these 5. Again, I do like Stein. I do like also Mr. 8 in here. So I'm going to have lineups where it's going to have these 4 and Stein. I'm going to have lineups where I'm going to have these 4 with Ayton. Like I said, I'm going 50-50 there. I think those are 2 good quality plays. Again, man, I wish you guys a lot of luck. I appreciate you guys dropping by. Make sure you drop a like as you leave. Make sure you subscribe. Hey, it'll be great if you guys share the videos with others, man. I really want to get this thing circulating to a whole nother level. But again, I appreciate all of you, man. Good luck to you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.